Pro wrestling is ripe for parody, whether it is stars themselves having some harmless fun, performers mocking other talents or a rival product, or even other forms of media putting their own spin on the world of predetermined action. These parodies are often brilliant, yet every once in a while these satires take on a whole new meaning and find themselves becoming more than just a one-off jest. Wrestling is so daft and such a massive paradox that the parodies of unreal events sometimes end up becoming, well, real. And that's exactly what happened here, folks. I'm Gareth from What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 wrestling parodies that became real. Number 10, the New World Order mock the Four Horsemen. Flair, played by Six here, summoned Arn Anderson, played by Kevin Nash, as part of this legendary influential Four Horsemen parody, and the detail that went into those prosthetics was just, well, nothing short of spectacular, wasn't it? It was like watching a power dynamic shift before your very eyes. The long, drawn-out, cutting, but very funny punchline of which was that the legendary stable were much too old to appear on national television and embarrass themselves with their romantic nostalgia. Flash cut to the mid to late 2010s as the NWO did the exact same thing in segments that were exponentially less funny. The Barely group buried both the Ascension and the Revival as part of the boys club establishment they once raged against. Number 9, Shawn Michaels buries Hulk Hogan as a bald, past-it old-timer, before becoming a bald, past-it old-timer 13 years later. Who knew? The original skit was fabulous though, peppering a quite insane amount of brothers throughout his spiel, gleefully hamming it up. Hulk works himself into such an apoplectic carny ticket selling fugue that he suffered cramp. It was great. At the merest sniff of cash, Shawn's Hulk became energized to a preposterous and injurious extent. Michaels answered a call from Battle Creek, Michigan. He was asked when he'd be making his return there, but laughed it off. "The Hulkster only makes the big towns, brother," he roared. 8 years deep into the retirements he always insisted would remain upheld and dignified, Michaels had resisted the lure of even the biggest towns. Chicago, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, New York, the showstopper had already stopped the show, brother! Until the glamorous bright lights of Riyadh, Saudi Arabia came calling, brother. Then it was time to get the band back together, brother. Number 8, Matt Jackson buries Hell in a Cell 2019. Not a parody per se, but certainly a burial in the spirit of being the Elite's WWE parodies that came back to haunt Matt Jackson. At Hell in a Cell 2019, WWE invited a storm of fan outrage by booking The Fiend to go to a no contest with Seth Rollins. Vince imagined this as a scene from a scary movie, but by crapping on The Fiend character so emphatically, it was closer to a scary movie entry. The Fiend got his own back on Rollins by drawing blood from his throat via mandible claw. Now remember that. In the aftermath, Twitter raced to bury the decision, joined by one Matt Jackson. AEW had just delivered the cracking, rapturously received debut edition of AEW Dynamite. In an inspired, albeit cheeky tweet with perfectly malicious comedic timing, Jackson reminded fans that the show was back on TNT the next week. This was solid PR, except just shy of 3 months later, Matt Jackson was set upon by another supernatural character, who in another disaster of an angle drew blood from his throat. Oh, this is awkward. At least Matt Jackson won't have to worry about the Nightmare Collective doubling down on this supernatural tediousness in the near future. Little victories, eh? Number 7, Billionaire Ted's Wrestling War Room. In 1996, Vince McMahon, shook by the inexorable rise of WCW Monday Nitro, parodied his own perception of WCW as an ugly, artless, ultra-capitalistic venture. This was obviously a bit hypocritical. Vince accused Turner of buying established properties with his obscene wealth, which is precisely how the WWF expanded in the early 1980s. They were the same guy. Hulk Hogan was, let's say, a bit old in the 1990s. But, in the 2000s, after he'd gone Hollywood in WCW, and he was older still, that was A-OK apparently. Hogan went on to win the WWF Championship in 2002. Even now, because Vince was always Ted Turner, he continues to flaunt that wealth by purchasing talent and presenting them pretty much as what they were outside of his doors. Number 6, Southpaw Regional Wrestling. As affectionately remembered as it was affectionate in its send-up of the territories of yore. It allowed the members of WWE's roster to break the usual scripted confines of a show that Vince McMahon gave a toss or even knew about. And as expected, Rusev in particular got over, and Fandango was particularly eerie in his dead-on impersonation of Todd Grisham. Southpaw Regional Wrestling captured perfectly the aesthetic of the early 80s studio show, allowed wrestlers, usually lumbered with deadening scripts, to reveal themselves as good promos, and wove several story threads over a limited series episodic run that culminated in a pretty funny dumb punchline. Southpaw Regional Wrestling, from its faithful fonts to its cosplaying undercarders to its improbable quality, is basically NWA Power. There you have it, folks. Number 5, Jim Ross spits fire verses. In May of 2010, an enterprising YouTuber by the name of J. Dan Luera created or uploaded a spliced parody version of Jim Ross's commentary in the boy-popping form of a rap entitled My Ass. A legendary viral hit. It's so goddamn juvenile that nobody can listen to its hip-hop tropes and maverick editing without, well, laughing. Look at the confident expression on my ass was a particular standout. Perhaps somebody listened to this send-up when pitching that Ross and Michael Cole should engage in a rap battle as part of their weird feud at the 2010 Slammy Awards. A visibly uncomfortable Ross, urged on by Booker T, attempted to take Michael Cole to school. The problem is that he forgot the word school. Cue generic hip-hop beat. Michael Cole, you're a damn fool. The king beat you like a government mule. I should be calling Raw. He forgot his line. He tried to think of another and landed on "cause you ain't got no talent," selecting the one word other than orange with no natural rhyme. This was a painful parody come to life. Number 4, Glow becomes real. Sort of. The Real Glow was a quasi-parody of professional wrestling that somehow heightened its soap opera elements and newfound 80s glamour to become a camp cult hit. Netflix's fictionalized version of it garnered critical acclaim and has proven quite influential, which is ironic given that the original promotion came into existence through the WWF's rampant popularity. The Liberty Bell character is based on the original characters Americana and the Southern Bells. Liberty Bell is remarkably similar to Lacey Evans. Liberty is a patriotic Southern Belle, where Evans is a former Marine whose aesthetic and very nickname is based on the Belle archetype. Evans never broke a fellow performer's ankle, mercifully, as of recording. WWE actually drew inspiration from Glow before Netflix even evolved into a streaming service. The performers of Glow were mostly aspiring models, which would form the basis of Big Johnny's entire recruitment model in the early to mid-2000s. Lurid and driven almost purely on sex appeal, Glow was the prototype Diva Surge, only with more actual wrestling matches. Number 3, Brandi Rhodes becomes Stephanie McMahon. If not an explicit parody, we were certainly invited to draw certain comparisons between Brandi Rhodes and Stephanie McMahon upon the launch of AEW. Her brand title is Chief Brand Officer. She threatened at Double or Nothing to make the women's division all about her by teasing an impromptu role in Full Gear before revealing the debut of Awesome Kong. But then this devolved into parody. Brandi cut a fabulous, heartfelt promo ahead of Fight for the Fallen, in which she revealed a lifelong struggle with anxiety, before Swerve turning heel at the show itself. Later, as Dynamite otherwise established itself as one of the best wrestling programs on television, Brandi dragged down its quality as the mouthpiece of the Nightmare Collective, burying the entire women's division in the process. The similarities became eerie, but happily the character has since been abandoned quietly on Twitter. Number 2, Bullet Club invades Raw. In September 2017, the Bullet Club invaded Monday Night Raw, to parody that time that DX invaded WCW. But this time they weren't on a tank. The Bullet Club wanted Marty Scurll's umbrella back in an amusing burial of Jack Gallagher's blatant plagiarism. They wanted Cody's last name too, which was delightfully absurd. Before tactically locating and gathering every WWE fan they could find in Bullet Club merch and spoofing the speech from Independence Day, Hangman Page declared war on the WWE. WWE, almost precisely 2 years later, engaged them in it. The declaration, intended as parody, became an actual wrestling ratings war fought on Wednesday nights between, poetically, much of that Bullet Club and former DX leader Triple H, pitting AEW Dynamite against NXT. Who saw that coming? Number 1. Futurama predicts the future. In the episode Raging Bender, aired originally in February 2000, Futurama satirized professional wrestling, and more specifically the one-note race baiting once so prevalent in it. It was a priceless send-up that perfectly skewered the rotten anti-creativity at the xenophobic core of the foreign menace character that had largely disappeared from the WWF in that golden creative period. The character was simply named The Foreigner, and he was hated simply because he was foreign. If I remember rightly, it went a little bit something like, "I'm not from here, I have my own customs. Look at my crazy passport." It was a tremendous bit. Mainstream wrestling parodies tended to punch down at the fan, but this illustrated the shallow idiocy of the promoter of yesteryear. The problem is that the foreign menace became prevalent once again rather quickly, as WWE became in many ways a bit of a parody of itself. Which is a bit of a sad note to end things on, really. Well, anyway, that's our list. Know of any other wrestling parodies that became a reality? Let me know all about them in the comments section below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button. Also, why not head on over to whatculture.com and click on some more incredible articles just like this one. I've been Gareth from What Culture Wrestling. Thank you very much for watching today. Hope you're having the best day possible, because you absolutely deserve it, and I'm sure I'm going to see you very, very soon.